help me understand, if you will, what is the picture when it comes to COVID in England?
Yeah, evening, Michelle. I think things are pretty positive at the moment. If you start looking at the facts and figures across the country, we had that massive rise in December with the Omicron wave. There's still a lot of testing, even though the number of tests have come down over the last 6 weeks. We're still doing a lot of testing across the country. We've had over 800,000 tests per day on average reported over the last 7 days across the country. And if you start looking underneath what the figures are, then there's different ways of looking at the facts and figures. So the first one you can look at is what percentage of tests that are carried out. So these are the tests that are done every single day. What percent are coming back positive? And it's around 10.5%. Now that's down from around 30% early January. So you've seen a significant drop there, which kind of indicates that fewer people are kind of testing positive if they're going forward for tests. And these are the PCR tests now, not the lateral flow tests that people can do. Then if you look at the ONS data with the ONS survey, which kind of there's random surveys of people across the country to try and understand the underlying prevalence. Cases have been coming down there as well. They've estimated about 4% of the population of England have got it. But I think we've got to move beyond the cases. That's just a little summary of what they are. If we look at hospitalisations, we've got the lowest number of patients now in hospital in ventilated beds since July. And we know that more and more people are going into hospital with Omicron or with COVID, but not actually being treated for it. And if you just forget COVID a second and just look at the NHS capacity in critical care over the winter, we saw no more patients really this winter. In fact, there were fewer patients in hospital in critical care this winter than we had in 3 of the 4 winters pre-pandemic. So we kind of moved beyond what we saw last winter, and things are looking pretty positive.
And where do we stand, Jamie, in terms of, excuse me, SAGE predictions? Because, of course, we've heard lots of doom and gloom. Where do we sit in terms of how we were predicted to sit right now in England?
Yeah, so Boris was obviously asked to put in further restrictions before Christmas, and SAGE was saying if we didn't do that, then we would see potentially deaths up to nearly 2,890 a day in England around the middle to the end of January. And the good thing is we obviously never got anywhere near that, and Boris didn't bring the restrictions in. We actually, with the ONS data, we can look at where we actually ended up, and it was closer to 200. Now, some people may say, well, 200 is still too many per day. But I suppose the thing to remind people is that people sadly do die every single day of the week. And what we're seeing with mortality at the moment across the country is deaths. The total number of deaths are no different to what we were seeing pre-pandemic. So in the latest week's data, Michelle, we've actually seen that deaths are lower than what we had in 2018, 2017 and 2015. So all the indicators are starting to kind of show life beyond the pandemic is what we knew it.
Jamie Jenkins, thanks very much for your insights.